Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivadikacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Shri Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Can you pass me the book, please? Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, Science of God, Chapter 6. What's the title? What's the title? 6? Here, you just pass me the book. Thank you. Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. Text 4. If everybody could please repeat. Tat priyaso na kartavyo yata ayur vyayaha param na tata vindate chemam mukunda Charanambujam Tat Priyaso Nakartavyo Yata ayurvaya param natata vandate chemam mukunda charanambujam tat prayasa nakartavyo yata ayurvaya param natata vindate cheman mukunda charanambujam tat prayasa nakartavyo yata ayurvaya param natata vindate chemam mukunda charanambujam.
Tatprayaso na kartavyo yata ayurvyaya param na tatha vindate kshemam mukunda charanam bhujam.
Would you like to chat? Tat for that. Sense gratification and economic development. Prayasaha, endeavor. Na, not. Kartavyaha, to be done. Yataha, from which. Ayurvyayaha, waste of the duration of life. Param, only or ultimately. Na, nor. Tata, in that way. Vindate, enjoys. Chemam, the ultimate goal of life. Mukunda, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can deliver one from the material clutches. Charana Bhujam, the lotus feet. Translation, commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time and energy, with no actual profit. If one's endeavors are directed toward Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. Purport. We see materialistic persons busily engaged in economic development all day and all night, trying to increase their material opulence. But even if we suppose that they get some benefit from such endeavors, that does not solve the real problems of their lives. Nor do they know what the real problem of life is. This is due to a lack of spiritual education. Especially in the present age, every man is in darkness in the bodily conception of life, not knowing anything of the spirit, soul, and its needs. Misguided by the blind leaders of society, people consider the body to be everything, and they are engaged in trying to keep the body materially comfortable. Such a civilization is condemned because it does not lead humanity toward knowing the real goal of life. People are simply wasting time and the valuable gift of the human form. People are simply wasting time and the valuable gift of the human form, because a human being who does not cultivate spiritual life but dies like the cats and dogs is degraded in his next lifetime. From human life, such a person is put into the cycle of continuous birth and death. Thus one loses the true benefit of human life, which is to become Krishna conscious and solve life's problems. Om Ganadipandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulam Aditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langai Tegadim Yakripatam Maham Vande Shri Gurundinitaranam Bancha Kalpadibishcha Kripasindivicha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. If one's endeavors are directed toward Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. It's a common disease these days to not be able to sleep. Yeah, except in Bhagavatam. At night, people have a hard time sleeping at night, and you wonder about that. Okay, well, why, right? There's different reasons, okay, so many different reasons you could come up with. But a lot of it's due to, you could say, anxiety or worrying about things. Or people have, you could say, disturbed sleep from worrying about things. Very common, for example, grinding of teeth at night. It's a very common. Or anxiety or worrying about things. Last night this is related to the topics, I'm not just, but I was having a hard time sleeping, which usually doesn't happen. I usually it's very easy. And I just couldn't go to sleep. And I was late to Mangalarti, so and you might think that I was sleeping upstairs, but it's practically impossible to sleep where I am. I'm right above the temple room, so I was hearing every hit of Ramapati's drumming, Other rooms you could easily sleep, but so you could say, what was I worrying about? And I was just thinking about, you could say, sometimes you worry about, okay, well, what will happen? What will happen to this person? What will happen to that person? What will happen to, you could say, whether it's people or say the future of ISKCON San Diego. So you say that you could worry about so many things like that. And then I was thinking, maybe someone died. And because sometimes when you're, there's like it says it in Krishna book, right? There's all types of inauspicious things that happen. Like, for example, you have certain, okay, your right eye twitches or your left, whatever. There's certain omens or something. I was thinking maybe somebody died. So actually, I didn't wake up because I was already up, but anyways, I investigated if somebody died, And there were some very, of course people died, but you know who died last year, 2023? Yeah, a lot of people. Famous people. Maybe the names don't mean anything to anybody, but Pee Wee Herman died. Bob Barker died, for those of you who know him or knew him. And Jerry Springer also died. So anyway, so that wasn't the case. It wasn't that somebody died but anyways, I was thinking eventually I went to sleep, but to not worry about the future, not think about the future, this is, you could say, this is really bad, to not think about the future. And someone, and Srila Prabhupada, I'm sure, would go as far as to say this is animalistic, not to think of the future. In other words, not to intelligently plan how to be Krishna conscious into the future. Of course, there's right now also. we have to plan, like today, for example. We have to plan how we're going to be Krishna conscious, what we're going to do to be Krishna conscious. It's not going to happen automatically. So we have to intelligently plan. So similarly into the future. And to not do that, that is, you could say suicidal, or subhuman. And it's interesting because in relation to planning into the future, I mean, people do it all the time. But what are they planning for? They're planning for sense gratification and economic development. That's what they're planning for. And it's interesting because living in an ashram, living in a temple, well, there's always a fluctuation of generally young men, sometimes older, in and out of the temple. It's interesting because sometimes we see that while in the temple, their brain is like, I don't want to say deactivated, but more or less deactivated. Or you could say a bit on the sleepy side. How to spread Krishna consciousness, how to be Krishna conscious in an intelligent way, how to plan into the future, how to better things for oneself and others and the movement. It's like they're like sleeping at the will. And then you see them move out and it just, the mind activates. There's a million ideas, right? How to plan for the very important thing of economic development and sense gratification. It's quite interesting. So one has to, you could say, learn how to plan for being Krishna conscious, spreading Krishna consciousness, how to contribute to Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna movement. That's what one should be planning for. That's what one should be endeavoring for. Or else, like this verse, like Prahlad Maharaj is saying in this verse, we may have our minds be on, going a million miles an hour in terms of economic development or sense gratification. But what's the result? The result is only a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. Everybody's thinking they're getting profit. But Prahlad Maharaj says no profit. Why? Because they're missing the point. They're missing the point. But if one's endeavors are directed toward Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There's no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. So what gets in the way of one's endeavoring, one's endeavors? What gets in the way of one making advancement in Krishna consciousness and attaining the spiritual platform? And that is kama. That's lust, material desire. And it's a very, you could say, insidious thing. It really enters in all different types of forms, all different types of shapes and forms, gross, subtle, super gross, super subtle. There's like a million different ways or more in which actually there's more. There's millions of ways in which the lust enters. And it takes all different types of forms. And a lot of the times, people are acting under particular desires in the name of Krishna consciousness. Hey, I'm trying to make advancement, I'm trying to make spiritual advancement, but it's just lust going on, mixed up in there, and it's not pure. And it's a problem, because then down the road they find themselves in so many problems. So again, to try to, you could say, and therefore the gurus there, the spiritual masters there, and not just the spiritual master, but the spiritual masters, the Shiksha gurus, to help us not be swept away by kama. Because by nature, that's the default position in Kali Yuga, to be swept away by kama. Like, try going out into a rocky part of the ocean in Hawaii. The waves will knock you down. You're not strong enough. They're intense. I mean, you walk out there and they're just, anybody who's surfed or anybody who's swam in different parts of water around the world, there's certain waves that just knock you right down into the ground, and then it could be scary. So the waves of material nature, they are sure to knock one down. They're sure to knock a person down who doesn't take the advice of devotees, of the gurus, of the sadhus, of scripture. They're sure to knock one down. Because again, it's the default. I remember there was one devotee here, and he was meeting with all the boys on the bus, the youth bus. And there's all different types of ages of boys. So he was talking with them, and in the lounge. And one boy raised his hand and he said, I was there and I was hearing on the side of the lounge. I was just curious what the conversation was about, and he was preaching to these boys. So, but one boy, he kept on pressing this point. Oh, what about like material progress? What about economic development? He kept on pressing this. When he was young, he was like, I don't know, 8 years old or 10 years. I don't know, just some really young age. But he was like really, really had it in his mind. And then this devotee just said, like, what's wrong? Just like, wake up. Like, what's wrong with you? Why you focus so much on this? Of course, okay, people may have to focus on it. There's certain ashrams. There's only actually one ashram that focuses on it. It's called the Grihastha ashram. But fine, but there's a way to do it in a controlled way, not an exaggerated way. So, now what does it mean to be on the spiritual platform of self-realization? Of course, it means so many things. There's people written books about it, right? Seminars, so all different type of lectures. Anyways, there's a lot to say about that. But we, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it is a tradition based on, you could say, supreme personalism. What is that? It means that the conception of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's the Supreme Person. And he has relationships, and that's what Krishna consciousness is all about. In the spiritual world, it's all about relationships. Every part of the day, Krishna is engaged in different relationships with his different devotees, right? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. He's just enjoying all this rasa, all this relationships with his devotees. And it's not that, you could say, and the devotees are also, you could say, enjoying the relationships with each other. They are doing that. And you see Lord Chaitanya's pastimes also, that throughout the different times of the day, Lord Chaitanya is associated with his devotees in different ways. They're enjoying these pastimes together. Oh, you okay? Okay. They're enjoying their pastimes together. So Rupa Goswami, he puts a lot of stress on this in the nectar of instruction, right? He says, Dadati priti guyamaikati prichati bhunkte bo jayate chaiva shadvidim priti lakshanam. So the materialist, or you could say, if you want to use stronger language, the demons, they engage in these exchanges, right? They get together at the local bar. They eat unmentionable things together. They exchange presents. Here's a bottle of whiskey, my friend. Yeah, turkey for Christmas. Yeah. Oh yeah, they watch that together, right? They're in, yeah, Asadu Sangha. So they're getting together, they're associating. They're having these 6 exchanges. They're offering food, they're revealing their mind and confidence, right, about unmentionable things, you know. They're getting all types of ideas, right, in terms of sense gratification, economic development. So they're having their Sangha. So Rupa Goswami says that the devotees, they also do that. And it's not that, oh, that's like optional. I'll chant Hare Krishna, I'll preach, I'll do so many things, I'll engage in deity worship, I'll do all this, you know, so many things. I'll follow all the rules and regulations of the Pancharatra, of the Shruti, of the Smriti. I'll avoid all the offenses, right? And the nectar of devotion. I'll memorize them also, right? I'll memorize the whole Bhagavad Gita. But I'll neglect this verse of Srila Rupa Goswami. 6 loving exchanges. And how, you have to do it. You have to reveal your mind to devotees. You have to inquire confidentially. You have to give prasadam. You have to accept prasadam. You have to give gifts. You have to accept gifts. Or else what? Or else you fall down. It's simple as that. And then people wonder, oh, why am I having difficulty? Well, it's a very important verse. You shouldn't be neglected. So unlike materialistic persons, engage in economic development all day and night, the devotees are engaged in Krishna consciousness all day and night. In their dreams, they're thinking about, right, devotional service. And in this way, they are able to utilize the human form of life in the best possible way. The best possible way being they engage their life in God realization. And they actually, you could say, benefit themselves and others in the best way, Krishna conscious way. And they solve all of life's problems. But again, we have to be very, very careful about this. This karma. It's such an ugly thing. I remember there was one brahmachari who's here years ago. I don't think anybody knows him. I'm not going to say his name, but even if I said his name, I don't think anybody knows him. But he was out distributing Prabhupada's books. I mean, he wasn't like, I don't know, wasn't doing anything. But he was up in Northern California at like a big concert, distributing Prabhupada's books. And his old girlfriend, she happened to be in the area. And yeah. So he just, he became bewildered. And later he came back to the temple here, and I remember seeing him clear out his things, because we used to have those cubbies, which I think gradually the new generation of devotees have cleared out. I think we still have two, so remnants of the past, but we at least have these cubbies. So I remember him cleaning out his cubbies. I was standing right there. And he was in the process of moving out, which, okay, people do that, but you shouldn't move out on the basis of kama, or just super gross, like uncultured kama. There should be some logical, sattvic, there's logical sattvic approaches to things. But this was real kama. So I remember him collecting all of his things. And he was in such a disturbed state of consciousness. And it's like he really didn't want to do it. But he was just collecting stuff. And then he took off. And he went to go, live with his old girlfriend. All in the name of Krishna consciousness. Yes, I will make her devotee. Yes, I will. But that, of course, that didn't happen. Could, but didn't. Anyways, eventually he left her, but he's still practicing, so he's still in the devotee fold. So you could say there's a happy ending, little detour there. It wasn't as long as the Jamil. The Jamil made a big detour up into the 80s, but so yeah, we have to be careful. Does anybody have any question or comments? Trivita Prabhu? Yeah, see you. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for class. You mentioned about having trouble sleeping. So one of the many reasons why science has said is parasites are in the body. So during the nighttime, parasites are alive and active. So if you're having trouble going to sleep, it's because the parasites are eating, they're craving sugars, they're craving fats, and then they go to sleep in the morning time. About 3:34 in the morning is when they go to sleep. So a lot of people can't sleep until 2, 3 o'clock, and then they sleep in till 9, 10 a.m., and that's when the parasites are sleeping.
Okay.
So
The source of this?
it's a lot of gastrointestinal doctors. You can Google this. There's many sources, but it's all different types of like worms and gross bugs that are telling your body what they want, and it's not what you want. So people that are craving like meats and bacon, there's specific, worms that actually change your chemistry to saying, I want sugar, I want potato chips, I want, bad, greasy food.
Yeah, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one time he was asked about his devotees, his brahmacharis and others. Says, some of them, they seem to not be making much progress. And why is that? And he gave the example that you could say the parasites of their you could say bad desires, and he said activities, they're eating up all of the you could say Krishna conscious credit. So they're not, in other words, they're not In other words, they're not getting nourished by it because something else has taken the nourishment. Although Prabhupada, one devotee was criticizing Prabhupada's godbrothers in front of Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada made an interesting comment about his godbrothers. He said just like Krishna, this is from Tamal Krishna Goswami, by the way. Just like he gives us remembrance. Just like Krishna, he delivered Putana. He brought her back to Godhead, right? So Prabhupada said, similarly, my spiritual master, he is so merciful that he'll bring all my godbrothers back to Godhead. It's a quite interesting statement. Any other last comments or questions? Yes.
Thank you for the class. You mentioned that we try to think about Krishna, but we have many different thoughts about economic development, etc., etc. And maybe speak something more about it, why it happens that we try to do it, but otherwise we have natural way we think other things.
Well, I mean, the whole world's moving in that direction, so it's not surprise that we've been conditioned certain ways. The world is moving a particular direction, so we've been trained like that, to think in that way. And also, you could say, we may have taste for that. We may feel that to be the real, nectar in life, right? So the solution is to param drishtva. The solution is always the same. Param drishtva navartate. To get a higher taste. We need to get a higher taste, right? Shushu sho shodadanas. To serve the devotees who are completely free from vice. Serve the Vaishnavas, serve Srila Prabhupada, serve Srila Prabhupada's desires, try to fulfill his desires. One of Prabhupada's desires is that he really wanted to, at each temple he wanted that the local people of the region would take to Krishna consciousness. Oh man. They're really after you this morning, huh? He wanted the local people of the regions to take to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada gave great stress on trying to attract a younger generation for many good reasons, because they have their whole life ahead of them and they haven't been stuck in their ways and so on. Younger generation, and Prabhupada gave an example because you could go to the senior citizen home, right, and do Harinam there, and right. I mean, it's good, for them. Yeah, it's good for them, but in a battlefield, in a war, they have. You have to follow some strategy, and the strategy is you go for the person's more or less likely to live in this analogy. So if the person, if his arm is falling off, okay, you go for him rather than the person that's like really, mortally wounded. So similarly, the general idea is, okay, you try to attract the younger generation of people. And therefore, Prabhupada gave great stress to colleges. That's where they all are. There's, maybe 10 community colleges here in San Diego. That's a lot. That's a lot of students. And there's also one SDSU, UCSD, USD, and Cal State. That's 4 universities. That's a lot of students. because so why am I bringing this up? Because this is one of Prabhupada's desires. This will please Srila Prabhupada if we try to make an effort to attract these people to Krishna consciousness. And by that, we will develop that higher taste, which is very important. Because when we get the higher taste, it's just like, okay, well, right, like the 6 Goswamis, they just renounced things because they had the higher taste. You can't do that unless you have the higher taste. And therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that sannyas without yoga is simply what? Suffering. So we have to have that, to try to become detached without being connected to Krishna, that brings suffering. So therefore we have to be connected in a higher taste. And then those other things will go away. All right. Yes, Bajranarayan Swami.
Everything you said about focusing on young people in colleges and, old folks, it's completely accurate. Although I was in a darshan one time with Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, a devotee said about old people.
Shilavati, I think, was it? No.
No, it was the painter Devahuti.
Okay.
And said it's difficult to teach an old dog new tricks. And we've all heard that one. And Prabhupada responded with the second half, which I'd never heard before. But once they learn, they never forget. Mm-hmm. Then Prabhupada went on to say that people take things easily when they're younger and they give them up easily. Take it easily, give it up easily. But if you're older, it may take you longer to take it up, but when you take it up, you're solid.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to
Thank you.
Put a plug in for the oldsters.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so many examples of devotees who have taken to Krishna consciousness later in life and quite later, I mean, relatively speaking. And they really made a lot of advancement, did a lot of service, and some of them left us, but they even go down into history being, not even, but because it's very possible at any stage one could become realized, but yeah, there's so many devotees like that disciple of Tamal Krishna Goswami. What's her name? Kirtida. I mean, she's quite an amazing devotee. I mean, we won't get into all of it right now, but she took the Krishna consciousness quite late in her life. I don't know, she was something like 50, and she really made a lot of advancement. Eventually, she got cancer, and she passed away there in Dallas. But devotees were like really inspired by her, and they, wrote a book about her and everything. And also Tamal Krishna Goswami was, really inspired by her, and he would tell of his disciples, this is a very good example. So yeah, that's a good point.
I have small comment that mentioned about how to open heart, something like this. That how understand that Rupa Goswami speaks that it's possible when we have similar interests. That this our our nature, material nature, should be like similar, because of if very different and very difficult to this exchange.
Well, I've never heard that the natures, you could say the modes of the people had to be the same, if you want to use that term, or the same conditioning has to be the same, because I've known many devotees who had friends in Krishna consciousness, and they were quite different, in terms of their nature, like radically different. But they were great friends because they were associating on the common ground of kirtan, of prasadam, of Srila Prabhupada preaching. So really, that relating on that ground, we're not from the same part of the world. We don't have the same ethnic background. I mean, and much of Krishna consciousness is like that. I mean, if it weren't for Krishna consciousness, then we would say that we wouldn't really be associated with each other.
100%.
Yeah, we'd all be in our own different kind of groups here and there, right? So that's the idea. But it is, you could say, could be a difficult thing to overcome, that tendency to want to relate to one's own kind, you could say, on a material platform. But on the spiritual platform, we could, like Prabhupada, he related to everybody.
We're not the spiritual platform until we arrive with
we got to get
many
there.
difficulties.
Yeah. But even then, even if we're not fully on the spiritual platform, I see that devotees relate to each other beyond the, you could say, material conditioning. I do see that. Okay, Chad is the last man. Better make this a good one, Chad.
I'll do my best. So, the more one is surrendered or has found shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, the more fearless one is. And fearlessness and not having anxiety go hand in hand. So I was wondering if you could talk about maybe that in the realm of sleeping and dealing with the anxiety of future things and all that.
Well, there's fearlessness, which is a result of being Krishna conscious. There's fearlessness. But even while being Krishna conscious or while having the quality of fearlessness, one still thinks of the future, and one may even worry about it. Like Srila Prabhupada would worry about his disciples. Of course, you could say it brings on like a spiritual nature. It's not like a mundane worry. So that's the thing. All of these emotions, most of the emotions that we experience in material existence, they have their spiritual counterpart. So, I mean, we could engage fear in Krishna consciousness also. What do we fear? We fear displeasing Krishna. We feel displeasing the spiritual master, the devotees. We fear Maya, illusory energy. So we engage that fear. So you could engage worry also. Instead of worrying about your future in a mundane way, you could worry about the helping people, for example. Oh, there's so many people out there. Who will help them? I will. I'll try to. You could worry about that. Or you could worry about, the bookshed being full of books and them needing to go out. How will those books go out? Right? You could worry about that.
There was this that it was related to him talking about, in Krishna, as you become Krishna conscious, then you lose, you aren't fearful, and then you wouldn't have anxiety and so on. But then you're saying how there's this, anxiety, but for Krishna and so on. And then you were kind of touching in class, and also last night we were talking about, you're talking about deity worship and so on. But there's that. I mean, it's probably well known here, but that account. Forgetting who's speaking or who's writing this. I thought it was maybe. Well, then Prabhupada said, I stayed silent, and then Prabhupada said, that is my anxiety. So he's saying, I have this anxiety. That after I leave, you will neglect the deity worship, and everything will be spoiled. I think that I'm trying to find the context. I thought it was that.
Might have been in New Vrindavan.
He came somewhere and or somebody was saying oh, when you're here.
There was some things in New Vrindavan. They were saying something in Australia. He said at different places similar things. But yeah, one thing Prabhupada said about maintenance, he said you could, there's a certain standard, right? You don't want to go below the standard. You may increase, but you shouldn't go below. And then Prabhupada said, ultimately the best is to expand things. It means for Krishna's pleasure, make things better. But then Prabhupada would say, if you can't do that, at least maintain, what I've given you. Which is a tough thing because Prabhupada sometimes devotees say, well, Prabhupada asked for quite a lot. I mean, every day addressing the deities, every morning, every night, so many offerings, that's a lot. And some devotees may say, well, it's kind of like that. He asked for milk and give him water principle, we just reduce things. But I don't understand it like that. I understand that that's what Prabhupada wanted. And it is possible. And as Prabhupada would say, quoting maybe someone else or maybe just not someone else, but Prabhupada would say impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So, in other words, by intelligence and by organization, it can be done in a Krishna conscious way. Anyways.
I guess I found, so the line before that was just, the memory was that once as Srila Prabhupada was walking on Venice Beach, I said, Srila Prabhupada, everyone says that since you've come, I guess to LA, the deities look even more beautiful. And Prabhupada said, that is my anxiety. And then I didn't know how to process that. I stayed silent. Then Prabhupada said, because he got understanding his anxiety. So I stayed silent. Then Prabhupada said, that is my anxiety, that after I leave, you will neglect the deity worship and everything will be spoiled. Like, yeah, the deities look even more beautiful now, maybe because I'm here and you guys are upping this or something. But when I leave, that they won't look as beautiful, or that seems to be the context.
Yeah.
In that regard, I listen to tapes all the time. Prabhu was talking about that, and that he was in reference to maintaining the strict classes and hearing and chanting to keep yourself alive in the Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, the vigraha will become galagraha. Have you ever heard that? It will become a big burden. What has Swami done? Get burdened. In other words, your enlivenment comes from the sound, hearing and chanting, and then that's applied to all your services. And if you neglect that, it becomes tedious. You're going to go out and make money and whatever, So that's a very important principle. Strict, attendance in the classes, studying his books. He was very, very eager that you do that we all do that. He said, well, he one time asked, this is another class, so you're reading my books? And said, Prabhu, we have so much to do. He says, and what's the use? In other words, he wrote the book for us, and not just for distributing, but we should study and stay enlivened by reading, hearing, chanting.
Yeah, it's interesting about this one. Srila Prabhupada is asked about, Srila Prabhupada is asked about how to become enthusiastic. It's interesting because it's a common question, especially if you're, whatever. I'm sure the Swamis get it all the time, right? Maharaj, how do you stay enthusiastic? How do you be enthusiastic, right? One Swami was telling me he was a little kind of, a little irritated by for different reasons, but one answer Prabhupada gave is you become enthusiastic by following all the rules and regulations. It's very interesting because you would think that you have to be enthusiastic and then you follow the rules and regulations. But Prabhupada mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita often that the mind, because it's conditioned otherwise, bad condition by force, we have to press ourselves to do the right thing, to be Krishna conscious, and then by that following, even sadhana bhakti by doing things because we know they're good for us, then the taste comes. Or enthusiasm comes. It's an interesting point. All right, so we'll stop there. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.